The Reader on the 627 by Jean-Paul Didierlaurent. Translation by Roche Schwartz. Read by Stephane Cornicard. Chapter 1. Some people are born deaf, mute, or blind. Others come into the world afflicted by a nasty squint, a hair lip, or an unsightly strawberry mark in the middle of their face. And then there are those who emerge with a clubfoot, or a limb that's already dead before it's even lived. As for Guylain Vignolles, he began his life encumbered only by his name, which lent itself to an unfortunate spoonerism, Vilain Guignol, ugly puppet, a bad pun that rang in his ears from the moment he first drew breath and quickly stuck. His parents had shunned all the saints' names listed in the 1976 post office calendar, and plucked Guylain out of thin air, not stopping for one moment to think about the disastrous consequences of their choice. Strangely enough, even though he often felt extremely curious about it, Guylain had never dared to ask the reason. Afraid of causing embarrassment, perhaps, afraid too that the banality of the reply would most likely leave him disappointed. He sometimes tried to imagine what his life might have been like had he been called Lucas, Xavier, or Hugo. He would even have been content with Guylain Vignolles, a proper name that would have allowed him to make something of himself, his body and mind well shielded by 4 inoffensive syllables. Instead, he'd had to go through his childhood dogged by the humiliating spoonerism, Vilain Guignol. During his 36 years, he had perfected the art of melting into the background and becoming invisible, so as to avoid sparking off the laughter and mockery that never failed to erupt as soon as his presence was noticed. His aim was to be neither good-looking nor ugly, neither fat nor thin, just a vague shape hovering on the edge of people's field of vision. To blend into his surroundings until he negated himself, remaining a remote place never visited. During all those years, Guylain Vignolles had spent his time quite simply not existing, apart from on this dismal station platform where he stood every weekday morning. Each day, at the same time, he waited for his train, both feet on the white line that must not be crossed at the peril of falling onto the track. That insignificant line on the concrete had a strangely soothing effect on him. Here, the stench of death that constantly fogged his brain evaporated as if by magic. During the few minutes before the arrival of the train, he stamped his feet, as if trying to sink into the concrete, fully aware that this was merely an illusory reprieve, that the only way to escape the barbarism that lay beyond the horizon was to move away from that line on which he stood, awkwardly shifting from one foot to the other, and go home. He could quite simply give up, go back to bed, and curl up in the still warm hollow made by his body during the night. Escape into sleep. But in the end, Guylain always reconciled himself to towing the white line, listening to the little crowd of regular commuters gathering behind him, their eyes on the back of his neck causing a tingling that reminded him that he was still alive. Over the years, the other passengers had come to show him the indulgent respect reserved for harmless nutters. Guylain was a breath of fresh air who, for the duration of the 20-minute journey, allowed them briefly to forget the tedium of their lives. Chapter 2. The train pulled into the platform with a screech of brakes. Guylain tore himself from the white line and stepped into the compartment. The narrow folding seat to the right of the door awaited him.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?